The Stack. People, Business, Technology. With Dan Tomaszewski of Everything MSP.
Hello, everybody. Dan Tomaszewski here with Everything MSP. Welcome to another episode of The Stack, where we focus on people, business, and technology. Each week, we bring on industry leaders to break down what's changing, what's coming, and what MSPs need to be thinking about next, not just from a tool perspective, but from an operational and business standpoint. Today's conversation is all about looking ahead, and I'm very excited to bring on a special guest. Joining me today is Andy Comer with Synchro, and let's go ahead and bring Andy in. How are you doing today, Andy?
Good, Dan. How you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. It's good to have you here. And we've got a lot to talk about today. But before we jump into that, I'd like to get a little background about yourself and Synchro.
Yeah, sure. So, name is Andy Cormier. I am the channel chief here at Synchro. Oversee all of our marketplace and integration motions. Synchro itself, we're a combined RMM and PSA under one roof, and I know folks have heard that before. When I say combined, I don't mean we're a PSA and RMM owned by the same company that, quote unquote, integrates with one another. It's literally one platform, one UI, one database, one login. And then earlier this year, we just introduced the concept of XMM, or extended monitoring and management, which brings Microsoft management into the Synchro platform as well, really acting as that third leg of what MSPs need in a functional platform to run their business.
Nice. And speaking of what MSPs, need, you have a lot of experience from that perspective. You were an MSP yourself, right?
I wasn't. Yeah, it's kind of a wild story. I'm actually a consultant by trade. I certainly wasn't a technician at the time. I owned a large consulting firm for about 10 years, and we specialized primarily in consumer electronics, but we had a lot of ambitions into moving into SaaS. And this space we kind of always had our eye on this space. It was exploding at the time. And it wasn't just RMMs and PSAs. There was a lot of cool tangential stuff, documentation, live chat, customer portals, and sky was really the limit. So to better learn about the space, we started calling a bunch of MSPs, and we got very, very frustrated, to say the least. You could ask 10 MSPs the same question and get 10 diametrically opposed answers. So we were like ready to walk away, just drop the space entirely. And then one of my consultants had the crazy idea of, hey, what would happen if we opened up this MSP of our own, not really to generate revenue, just to maybe run it for 6 or 12 months, learn the ins and outs of the space on our own firsthand before we moved into this space from a consulting perspective. And stupidly, I say stupidly because we had a wild ride in the beginning, but we actually did that. And the business just turned out to be so profitable. We kept it alive, grew it to about $5 million of revenue before we sold it off 6 years later. So it was definitely a trial by fire.
Well, that's awesome. And it clearly, the value that provided you is tremendous, especially, for your role at Synchro. Now, you also, you love the MSP space so much, you authored a book. Can you tell us about the book?
I did, yeah. So early on at Synchro, the company was very much in what I would call a startup phase, and a lot of our customers, as a result, at the time, were in a startup phase as well. And I just exited my MSP. I found myself having a lot of not necessarily platform conversations, more business-related conversations with our customers, to the point I would just be repeating myself very often. And so I started thinking of how to have these conversations at scale. Can I do a bunch of white papers and share them out? And anyways, it ultimately turned into this book, and it's really about how MSPs are typically created with what I call a tech-driven mindset, and how this is really the antithesis of how you probably want to run your MSP, whether it's new or it's been existing. And what you really want to be doing to instantly fast forward into that growth, that MSP growth journey, is to really view everything through a sales-driven mindset. So instead of worrying about perfecting scripts and processes in your documentation, you really want to be worrying about perfecting that sales pitch and your negotiation skills. It's something that's unfortunately foreign to a lot of folks that are kind of ingrained in that tech-driven mindset, because the tech skills are often kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum from sales skills. You hear a lot of MSPs say, "Oh, we hate the selling part. We like the technical part,"
Right.
And And so, yeah, if you can really focus on that and nail it, you can literally just shave off years of traditional MSP growth with that
Yeah,
mindset.
absolutely. And today we're going to talk about some of your predictions for 2026, specifically around AI, consolidation in the space, Microsoft expanding their footprint, and also a bit about security expectations. Now, as we, jump through this, this isn't about hype. It's about, understanding where the industry is heading. So MSPs can make smarter, more intentional decisions. And we do know that AI is obviously everywhere right now, but not all of it's practical, and not all of it is really helpful. But for you, what are your predictions for 2026 as they relate to AI and the way that MSPs will actually be using it in their everyday operations?
Yeah, AI is such an interesting beast. It's. I don't think anybody's going to dispute the fact that it's going to be probably the biggest transformational technology of our lifetime. But we are definitely going to have to go through this shitty phase where every company under the sun is going to abuse the hell out of the term AI for marketing purposes. Like we're seeing it every day. And
Right.
just for example, I'm a huge tech dork. My wife and I we attend CES every year. That's the Consumer Electronics Show in
Yeah.
Vegas, and one of the biggest shows in the world. And it's all the new technology gets unveiled there. And last year, I'm not making this up, there was a company who really made a stink about putting out an AI toaster, claiming it could figure out how you best like your. It was so absurdly stupid. And
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the many examples of the nonsense that we're going to have to deal with until there are some real use cases and some valuable output there. So I think the more you pay attention to AI as it exists right in this moment, it all starts to kind of sound the same, especially in this space, like 10x your texts, never hire marketing people again. You can automate your sales pipeline, can automate your SDR operation. In reality, it's not really doing any of those things effectively today. It all feels like a very cool tech demo of what's about to happen, but like it hasn't happened just yet.
Right.
With that said, I think 2026 is really going to be the year that this all changes. This is where you'll now have to put your money where your mouth is as a company, touting AI, because the term AI alone won't mean anything because it's going to be slapped on so many things. It's when you say a word enough times, it just loses its meaning. It's very similar to like the term HD, how that was used 20 years ago, and everything was HD, and it just
Yep.
got really silly. And I think you'll start to see a lot less generic output from AI and much more targeted output from AI. For example, ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever you're using, it can help me write a script as an MSP technician, and yeah, that's pretty cool. It saved me,
Yeah.
10 minutes of googling vernacular that I don't have memorized. But what would be a lot cooler is, let's say I'm writing up my 250th contract over the past 24 months, and AI jumps in and says, "Hey, Andy, just so you know, out of those 250 that you've written over the past 24 months, you have an 18% greater probability of closing this if you use this methodology versus what you're using here. This is
Yep.
just based on your like your past close or renewal rates." And I'd be like, "Yeah, thanks AI." Like that's something instantly tangible and something that most MSPs wouldn't just know by heart. So I
Yeah.
think it's going to be a lot like the dot-com era, where for every 25 or even 50 things you see crop up, only one of those things in this space is going to be left standing a couple of years from now. I think if you ask MSPs what they want to see AI doing for them, the answers are still kind of all over the place, which means the space is really going to have to invent and create that value in what I'd probably call iPad moments, meaning companies that will create solutions for problems that you just never realized you had. So I kind of feel like that's where AI is going in 2026 in a nutshell. And I feel like if MSPs out there are really looking for, hey, there's so much noise out there, what should I glom onto? Definitely glom onto the companies that are looking to do very, very pointed and specific tasks, not the ones that are using marketing speak to 10x your text and things like that. Like that's where you're going to see the most impact for sure.
Yeah, and I think when we take a look at how you differentiate your MSP from others, AI truly is going to be that way that you can differentiate yourself, because it is so much more than, hey, we can sell you Copilot licenses, or we can help you with, how to leverage Chat GPT. It really is coming down to the business outcome and what can you do to help them be more efficient, more productive,
Yeah.
deliver a better client experience for their clients. But my recommendation for every MSP is look at how you can use it internally today, because you can't go out and try selling and offering solutions unless you've lived it internally and had it impact your own business. And but no doubt, exciting times. And I think those that seize the opportunity are gonna stand out very clearly. Um, as we look beyond AI, there's a lot happening in the MSP ecosystem. You have any other major predictions for 2026 that MSP should be paying attention to right now?
Yeah, I would probably give one extra prediction, and it has to do with security as a whole. Security is kind of like AI, and where it's not at the level of AI, but it's become its own beast, and it's definitely high on that list. And again, the space is rife with marketing speak, to the point that it's really becoming real difficult to tell what's legit in this space and what's not. In fact, there's some security companies out there, I have no doubt, that would want people to believe that, if me and you on this call weren't protected by their product or products, by the time this podcast ends, you and I have been hacked, 36 times over. That's the talk
Right.
track that we're seeing today. So there's really only so much that the space can take. And every time you turn around and actually really invest the time enough to learn yet another security acronym like EDR, well, then shit, now you dig through all that telemetry yourself, or you can move on to MDR. And what if MDR is not enough? Now it's identity, and you have to learn XDR. And to make matters worse, you've got insurance companies now trying to dictate varying levels of security compliance that your customers have to maintain. And that's really no better than the federal government trying to regulate technologies they can barely even spell. It creates
Yeah.
chaos, and it's not just confusing for MSPs, it's really confusing for their customers. And we hear from MSPs all the time that are bringing stuff to us, like their insurance companies saying this crazy thing, like, do we have these things? Some of these things they've never even heard of before. So I think that need has really created this animal in the security space that's grown so large and so fast. It's basically outpaced people's general understanding of it. And now you have a lot of MSPs out there that are deploying security products they don't fully understand. To your point, if you haven't used it, vetted it, and relied on this, it's really not a great idea to go push it out, because you're not sure what it's going to do or how you've got it configured in the right case. Or more importantly, they don't understand where the point of diminishing returns starts or ends.
Okay.
I think an anecdote I'd use is I've got a security system in my house. A lot of people do, but if somebody kicks in my door in the middle of the night, is that alarm really enough to keep me safe until the police arrive? And on the flip
Right.
side, what's too much security? Do I need Navy SEALs patrolling my house with machine guns and Apaches over my, and
Yep.
also, what's overkill for customer A may not be overkill for customer B. So there's a lot of change there. And I think what you're going to see is a massive consolidation of both companies and technologies that are really going to look to say, hey, look, you don't need 35 a la carte security SKUs to protect your customers. We've got a platform that does all of it, from cloud to endpoint to identity. And I think that's going to become a major talk of 2026, is how can we bring everything under one roof, because people are just losing it with
Yeah.
all these different point solutions. It's too much. It's too confusing. It's changing too fast.
So with that consolidation that we're talking about, how is Synchro thinking about and approaching the trend going forward?
From a security perspective, I break that up into two questions, really, because there's a lot of consolidation happening in the MSP space in general outside of security, but specific
Right.
to security as a whole. um, I think the best approach that we're doing is offering choice, where you kind of see consolidation happening in the space, where it's happening in a lot of negative ways. And what I mean by that is you're seeing a lot of third parties being thrown out of other RMM and PSA products in favor of other companies they've acquired, and you're taking choice away. So you actually will have MSPs uh, knowingly using products that they're not going to be able to be as effective or as profitable with, but they're part of some forced package that they can't get out of. And we really like the approach of giving you options. Bring your third-party tool to Synchro. We'll deploy it from Synchro. We'll allow you to bring in alerts into Synchro. A lot of the times you can buy those licenses from Synchro. But if you don't like one platform, or one platform falls out of favor, you shouldn't burn down your entire stack, for that. You shouldn't have to change
Yeah.
everything out. So we have plenty of options to make sure that folks are able to move into what they want to move into.
Yep. Absolutely. And As we kind of shift gears a little bit, I want to talk a bit about Microsoft because it's kind of hard to talk about the future without bringing Microsoft into the conversation.
Yeah.
What kind of changes do you see coming as Microsoft continues to expand its presence in the MSP space heading into 2026?
Yeah, it's interesting. Even when I was an MSP, the worst thing I had to worry about was somebody who was ahead of the curve and they wanted to move their exchange server, on-prem to the cloud, and that was as complicated as it got. And
Yeah,
every time you turn around, there's like hundreds of new like SKUs that are in their line card, and it's hard to keep track. But it's gotten to the point where Microsoft was a portion of what you did, and now it's absolutely become like the primary portion of what you do, and everything is becoming secondary to that. And
right.
again, you can tell that because anytime you see a new technology like AI that's really going to take off, you see every company under the sun saying AI, and you're seeing that in this space too, where now every company under the sun is saying we do Microsoft stuff, and the problem is that point solutions only live for so long. And a good example of that is Synchro has been following this trend. And like I said earlier, we really believe that Microsoft isn't just a prevalent force in the space, it's the prevalent force in the space today. And
Right.
you can't do your job today without hopping into Microsoft tenants 15 times a day. So being able to bring that into the tool sets that you already use every single day instead of having to go to some other point solution to help manage that. You see platforms like SIP and how that's been proliferated, and how so much fanfare around having unified multi-tenant solutions like that. So yeah, I think there's no avoiding Microsoft in the space. So I think folks that adopt as much of Microsoft as humanly possible, and B, start to ensure that the tool sets they're using are integrated into the platforms that they're primarily using every single day for their RMM and their PSA. And I think you'll be well ahead of the curve, because if you just look at the growth of, even if you take Defender as an example, like people used to say, oh my God, I would never trust Microsoft with that. And everybody's like, oh, Defender is great. I love Defender. And
Yeah.
so just the growth of that over the past couple of years has been insane. And it's happening with everything.
Yeah. And used to look at the original Office as that productivity suite, but I mean, you take a look at the collection of tools that Microsoft has available today. I mean, it truly is a productivity suite. I mean, um, from A to Z, it covers everything, and it's just amazing how much and how deep it can go, and the ability to help your clients get beyond scratching the surface and really dig deep into those applications. And so, we talk a bit about security, and security is such a critical thing as far as expectations increasing every year. Not only from clients but insurers and regulators. That's something that we just have to talk about. What kind of changes are you seeing in the security landscape? As we look forward.
I think there's two things. I think there's a big shift, and I don't mean a shift away from, I just mean a shift in addition to. It used to be you could you just throw on any AV onto a machine and you're good to go. Now I'm
Right.
secure, you're fixed.
Yeah.
And
Those were
now
the
with
days.
they really were. And like I said, I would really struggle in today's environment, because we didn't have a huge security team on staff, that you really need to have today. So yeah, I think the shift from just endpoint security moving into ITDR and managing individual identities, and how you can actually hack somebody. It used to just be the commercials on TV, like, somebody used your credit card or opened a credit card, but now they're taking over your email and exposing critical data from other employees in your company and things like that. So moving into that is a big one, and that's something that folks are going to have to move on very fast if they're not doing it already. Plenty of good solutions out there. Even at Synchro, we partner with Proofpoint and Iron Scales, but there's plenty of things out there protecting folks from that. And then I think the other big shift, and we're really seeing this at Synchro specifically take off, is the use of like MDR, a SOC, managed detection and response, whatever you want to call that, but basically outsourcing a security team, because security is such a hot topic, just like AI, that if you just have security on your resume, you're making so much money than you used to be back in the day before that was a thing. And the cost is to acquire security talent is getting so expensive that it really is hard to have a very talented security team. You used to be able to run security with even just a tier two technician, like that was good enough for security. And now you need
Yeah.
dedicated security people. And unfortunately, you don't want to be the MSP out there with just like the so-so security team because you'll get smoked in the space. And I think MDR has really been taking hold, and it's letting people level the playing field where MSPs that didn't have that hardcore security team or are struggling to maintain one are able to outsource that. So now they can compete with the much larger MSPs that this is just a regular matter of their staffing practice. And it also lets you compete for that better class of customer that might be a 24/7 or 24/5 operation, and you just don't have the staff to be there overnight. With MDR, you can protect both the identities and the endpoints, the environment as a whole. And I think that's really helping MSPs kind of deal with this crazy security landscape today.
So with that being said, what are some ways that Synchro is thinking about security offerings and how to support MSPs?
So yeah, that's something we've been doing. We've been a long time Bitdefender partner. We just added Threat Down. We're looking at some other solutions as well. And like I said, we definitely partner with several email security vendors as well. And it's really two things: being able to make sure that all of this is integrated in an impactful way. That's something that always drove me crazy as an MSP. When you look at an application, you're like, oh, great, it integrates with all these things, and you click it, you're like, and it actually doesn't do anything.
Right,
And
right.
so making sure that it does something useful, and then making sure that the full gamut of what we offer folks on our line card does include those services up through MDR and beyond. We're not going to be bringing on any more security solutions that don't have some level of managed SOC to them, because we do believe it's so important for MSPs to have access to that. It's just I can't say enough how people that have adopted this, and a lot of folks are a little nervous at first when you hear $5 or $10 an endpoint, and then it takes one crypto lock on a machine or one ransomware attack, and they're like, oh my God, I would have happily paid the $100 a month for this customer. It's just burned me to the ground. So it's well worth the investment. And anyone who's had a business will tell you it's not, dealing with employees isn't always the most fun aspect of a business. So you could be all set with one security guy, and if he just happens to walk out the door for any reason, you're literally stuck.
Right.
So it really does make sense to work on the outsourced component for MSPs today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, especially for those MSPs that, they're at a point where, I mean, and really it can be many sizes, but the ability to bring on that kind of talent is extremely expensive, very expensive. And, of course, that also just brings on more headaches as well. So that outsource capability is very viable. We talked earlier about differentiating MSPs from other MSPs. I'm going to kind of flip that one on you a little bit, as far as how is Synchro differentiating itself from other vendors that are moving towards, some version of the consolidated platform model?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's interesting is, and I was kind of alluding to this earlier, consolidation is obviously happening in the space, but it really is happening in some of the worst ways, in my opinion. As an example, Synchro's model was really when they came to be 8 or 9 years ago, it really was the origination of companies that wanted to put MSPs first. And most of the new like copycat kind of startups in this space have glommed onto that model as well. So for example, Synchro is priced per technician, not per endpoint. So this kind of sounds corny, but I can actually shake somebody's hand, every single time they close a new customer, where other companies that are per endpoint price are kind of reaching out their hand saying, hey, that's super cool, I'm glad you got a customer, where's our cut? And
Right.
that feels kind of gross as being a business owner in the past. And then you've got like the legacy RMMs and PSAs in the space. They've gone through very, very visible consolidation over the past few years. It's impossible to have missed that. And that's kind of led to a real, and I hate to say it this way, but it's true, in my opinion, like a customer last mentality. For example, you're seeing, like we were talking about earlier, third parties getting thrown out of larger companies that want to bundle it, in favor of their own products. And problem with that model is, you've got MSPs who they can love every single thing in the bundle except for, platform X, platform Y, maybe one or two things. And it kind of becomes like a race to the bottom where they're like, well, it's not so good, but we have this awesome price when you bundle it all together. And it's just not advantageous for MSPs. So I think that makes it very difficult for MSPs to grow under those types of conditions when they're forced to kind of deal with those inefficiencies in their stack, because it just so happens that it's included in my bundle, so I might as well
Sure.
use it. So I think Synchro is always going to stay ahead of the pack by doing two things. One is always being a very good predictor of what's coming next in the space and adopting that. We were very, very fast to move on all the Microsoft functionality that we've been adding in today. Very even at a very basic level, being able to reset a customer's password or reset their MFA. It's something that we just get asked 20 times a day, and having to log into the tenant and get, even your tier ones, getting them access to that kind of stuff. It's just a waste of time. So knowing like what types of actions are my techs constantly working on in Microsoft, and making sure that you can do those in your core platform while maintaining that customer first model and that very friendly to do business with model
Yeah. Yeah.
has been, and I think it'll continue setting us apart in the future.
That's great. And, as we begin to wrap up, I want to give you a chance to, share something additional that, a resource to offer any kind of new capabilities that MSP should be checking out with Synchro.
Yeah, there's a couple new functionality things. Obviously, XMM has been a huge driver of new business for Synchro, bringing in that Microsoft functionality. Besides the basic actions you can take, it's also obviously syncing all your contacts over from Entra, so that simplifies things with a single source of truth, which used to be the PSA. Now it's quickly becoming Microsoft. We also have deployed a litany of security baselines that you can monitor against your tenants, to ensure that A, they're secure, but B, that you haven't had any policy drift. Everybody's had, a technician go in, make a couple of changes to test something, come back and forget to put it back, kind of
Right.
leaving things a bit exposed there. And then we've expanded our reach into Microsoft space. We just rolled out a couple weeks back a native Microsoft 365 backup. So that's for email, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams. It even will back up your entire Entra settings if that ever gets compromised for any
Oh, wow.
reason. And that's all baked right into Synchro. It's not a separate portal. It's all baked. You just easily deploy it from the Entra tenant. So you've got synced in Synchro. And then the last thing, which has really been a game changer for MSPs, it's something that doesn't get talked about too frequently, because on most of the time when folks are getting interviewed, it's very rarely the billing admin, which every MSP has, but they're usually not extremely vocal until it comes time to buy a new platform. And one of the things that drives billing admins insane is all of the third-party add-ons that you have to bill back to customers, their backups, their AV, their email security, their backup license, whatever it is. And we've devised a solution for that for virtually everything that you'll find in our marketplace. We call it universal billing. And what that does is it will allow you to sync customers to, let's just say, Acronis as an example, to your Acronis tenant. And it will bring in on a daily basis all of the usage across every SKU you have, allow you to report on it within Synchro. And the coolest piece of that is it will move that usage into recurring invoices and automatically change the quantities for you every single day. So whenever
Oh,
that
wow.
recurring invoice fires, it is always accurate information. So the very first day we rolled it out for one of the products, I don't want to say what it was because I don't want to make the MSP embarrassed or anything, but we got a call from this guy who absolutely loved it. He said, "You'll never believe this. It was just from one customer. They had not been billing out $900 of an AV product every month
Oh,
to that customer for like 18 months. It was like $15,000 of
wow.
unrecouped revenue. And this
Yeah.
is what this is designed to expose. And so the very next thing that we're working on, we just kicked this off last week, is the ability to do that with your Microsoft 365 licenses. If you get it from Pax8 or from Ingram, we don't care who you buy it from, because you're just syncing your tenants to us. We'll be able to bring in that license information, map it to the customer, and we're automatically going to bill out your quantities. If they change in the tenant, they're going to change on your recurring invoices. So yeah, the days of your billing admin's hair being on fire for missed billing, the customers are always going to tell you when you overbill them. They're never going to tell you when you underbill them. So yeah, this is a great
Yeah.
way to make sure that you're getting paid for your hard work and your effort here.
That is awesome. That's some great things. And Andy, this has been great. A lot of great forward-looking aspects that we can look forward to for 2026. For our MSPs listening, the big takeaway here is that 2026 success isn't just about chasing trends. It comes down to, being intentional about the platforms, the process, the security, where AI actually fits into your business. And Andy, again, thank you for joining us today, sharing your perspective. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
And for everybody listening, I greatly appreciate you being here. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to The Stack.